Hello, this is John from optionsmeister.com. What I'm showing you in this tutorial is my OptionsMeister 2024 trade log spreadsheet. I've made a few revisions from the past copies. If you've used it in the past, you may want to get the updated copy. It's certainly fine to keep the existing one, but I did change a few columns around, and a few things I'd like to go over with you. One thing I would encourage you to do is to make a copy of the master when you get it and rename it. So if you mess up the original, you've always got that copy in reserve. So let's get going here. The first column is pretty simple. That's just the chronological number of the trade, 1 through whatever. The account column, I really don't use it for accounts anymore. If I want to keep track of the earning trades, I put the letter E in that column and can see which were earning trades and which were not. Going across the columns from left to right, the entry date, is self-explanatory. Next column is the symbol, next the implied volatility rank. If you use something other than implied volatility rank, you may want to change that heading to IVP for implied volatility percentile or whatever you use. The next column, titled Action, is either sell to open or buy to open. Most of mine are sell to open, but some trades are buy to open. In the next column under Expiry, I will put the expiration date of the trade when I put the trade on. I don't change this. I considered another column if the expiration trade changes as the result of an adjustment, but at this point, I'm just going to leave it with the expiration date when I put the trade on initially. The next column is the strikes used in the trade, pretty self-explanatory. In this first trade, it was a 195 put credit spread. For short strangles, I typically have the call first, then the put. This trade is short the 43 call and short the 32 put. That's just the way I do it. Again, do it yourself. Whatever works the best for you. To give you an idea of what I will do on an iron condor, I'll go say 250, 240, 200, 190 like that. Then I will key an iron condor in the strategy column. If I'm doing a jade lizard, something like that, say it's 250, 245, and then I might add a space, and the short put I sold for it might be the 185. But you can come up with your own legend on that. That's just how I do it. Pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, strategy. I'm very adamant about keeping track of the strategies. There's a drop-down that makes it easy for you, but oftentimes you can just type in the first few letters and the strategy will pop up. The next column is the price at execution. That's the price that the underlying was trading for at execution. I don't always get that at the instant I place the trade if I'm busy, but I like to have an idea of where the underlying was trading when I entered the trade. I may want to use that for some future reference when analyzing the trades, particularly trades that don't work out for me. But again, you can choose not to do that if you don't want to. The entry is either going to be a positive or negative number. If I sell the open, it's going to be a negative number. If I buy the open, it's going to be a positive number. Again, pretty self-explanatory. The entry column is the credit or debit at trade entry. The entry commission is the commission I paid to enter the trade. Then, if I do rolls and adjustments, I put them all in the rolls and adjustments column. Sometimes there might be one adjustment, and there are times I have 20 or more adjustments. It depends how you want to do it. I'll keep track of them, adding them up here in the formula bar. But if you want to keep a side account, just keep adding what your adjustments are, plus or minus. You want to put those in that column. You just want to keep them in the same parameters that you're using. If you're keeping credits as a minus, and you have an adjustment that is a debit roll, then the number is going to be a plus. Just make sure you keep that straight. Then any additional commission that is a result of these adjustments, I keep track of it in the additional commission column. Again, I total them up in the formula bar, but you can put them on a separate worksheet and just add them up and plug them in that cell. The cost basis is just simply the total of the entry plus the entry commission, any adjustments, and the commission for those adjustments. And that gives me my current cost basis. When I put this trade on, the buying power that was required was 312.27. I don't change that. Of course, on credit spreads or defined risk trades, it doesn't vary. But if you have a short strangle or other undefined risk trade, the volatility can materially affect the buying power requirement. However, I do not change the number to reflect a change in buying power. When I put the trade on, I enter the buying power required in the capital at risk column. I round that to a whole number. I want to know at any time how much capital I've got tied up. Now that's not going to be exact, but it gives me a pretty good idea. I also track it on the dashboard. When I close the trade, it's pretty simple. Enter the trade close date, and the days in trade is calculated for you. Enter the exit price. You paid $190 to close this trade, with 26 cents in commission. The net trade cost was $190.26, resulting in a net profit of $8.96 on this trade. Then I calculate the return. I take what the profit was net of commission, divide it by the amount of capital that was used or buying power, and come up with a return. Then I take that return number, divide it by the number of days I was in that trade, and I calculate the daily return. I finally figured out the Excel formula to calculate the annualized return, which is important for me to keep my eyes on that number. I convert the daily return into what an annualized return is. That is simply as if you put money in the bank and you get 2.9% annual interest. You see on the next trade, the annualized return was 28.7%. I really want to keep track of those and know what my annualized return is on my trades. That is pretty much the spreadsheet in a nutshell. Not a lot of change from the previous versions, but there are a few little tweaks here and there that may make a difference and may encourage you to want to use the newer version. You're certainly welcome to the new iteration. I'm going to build a landing page where you can request the spreadsheet and also a video tutorial. Then if you request either or both, you can download them directly. Now let me go through the other workspaces down here. The dashboard is simply a summary of what's going on. Tells me how many trades I've entered, how many trades I've closed, etc. The trades by strategy, which I really am fond of, it picks up the trades by strategy. I do want to point out, if I didn't say it earlier, if you put the trade data in the detailed trade log that we just went over, all the information on the other worksheets is automatic. So as long as you get the information for your trade on the trade detail page, it'll end up in the dashboard. It'll end up in the trades by strategy. A new one I added last year was the P&L by symbol. I've got most of the symbols that I trade here. Some, of course, I didn't do a trade on in 2023. But if there is something that you want to add, it's real simple to add a symbol to that worksheet. I'd like to have them in alphabetical order. If I need to add a symbol not previously on the list, I insert a row, and then I just copy formula in the above cells to this row. If you ever have any trouble with that, you want to know how to do it, to add a symbol that isn't in there, just reach out to me. Or if you're a gold level member, just ask me in the private Skype chat or the live trade room. The input items, you really don't have to do anything with that. It's just a list of the input items that are picked up over in the strategy column. Here's another worksheet that I have on the spreadsheet. I worked on it a little bit, but I found out it was more work than I care to do. I'm not really too bullish on it right now, but I was capturing the trades by month, each month, just to keep a handle on that. But it requires you to manually adjust the columns each month. You've always have to go in and figure out where, in this case, where January started and the last trade in January, the same thing with February, etc. You've got to go through this and do the same thing on the open trades. For instance, go to the column S and figure out where in which row January started and which row it ended. All rows require the same effort. The return on capital is the only calculation. So you've got to go in every month and you've got to modify these 5 cells. I don't know if I'll continue with that, but I'm going to leave it on there for the time being. So that's up to you if you'd like to do something on that worksheet. If monthly numbers are important to you. Now let me pause the recording for just a second. I'm going to bring up the 2023 spreadsheet, and just give me a second. Okay, I'm back. This is the trade log for 2023. As of December 27th, I put on 397 trades, a little lighter here than I like. You can see on this spreadsheet that I changed a few of the columns around. If you have already been using the spreadsheet, this is the one we've always had in the past. You can just see here what trades are still open. I have been in Chewy since last January, so that's still open just to give you an idea of that. But by putting this data in, Like I explained earlier, the byproduct is getting all this in separate worksheets. Everything from the trade log is pulled into the worksheets. You get an instant summary of your trading performance. What I really like is the trades by strategy. I really like to see what trades were good for me, what trades were bad for me, and if there are some things I need to work on. I always like to double-check everything. You can see right here, there were 397 entered today. And I want to see that number in every worksheet so I know all the data is reconciled. What you'll run into sometimes, if you come down to the bottom of, say, the trade by symbol, does not reflect the same number of trades, you have probably traded a symbol that's not on that list. You may choose not to keep track of the buy profit or loss by symbol, because most of the platforms do that for you. But I just like to do that. You will want to cross-check to make sure that these numbers are the same as far as totals and winning and losing trades. Like I said, that may or may not be of interest to you, but it's something that I like to do. I usually go back at the end of the year. I review the symbols that I traded. Again, this detail may or may not be of any importance to you, but that's basically the sheet in a nutshell. If you have questions, you can always reach out to me, john@optionsmeister.com, or reach me on Skype. If you are a Gold member, you can reach me on either the private Skype chat or the live training room if you have any questions on using this spreadsheet. Again, I would encourage you to make a copy of the original and stick that aside, and then work on the copy and rename it a different name. If you're familiar with Excel, you know what I'm talking about. That way you always have the copy for a backup. Good luck and great trading.